again in the victory over Italian champions Milan in Europe. The target now is to close the gap to the league's frontrunners. The Blues are 8 points off the lead. Against Wolves, Wesley Fofana won't be involved. A knee injury will sideline the Frenchman for 4 to 6 weeks. But his teammates and the club as a whole will aim to maintain their winning standards.
We have to all work together towards the targets that we want, to keep winning trophies, to create the culture, the values of the club, working together. We have a fantastic academy, we have a fantastic women's team, so I think we are in a very good place, and now we have to keep developing and improving, because competition out there every year is harder and harder.
A vacancy at the top for Wolves. Bruno Lage was dismissed after the loss at West Ham, their 4th defeat of the season. In that match, Pedro Neto sustained an ankle injury. He requires surgery and will be out for some time. A big task for a big man. Diego Costa's been signed to add to the pack's measly total of 3 league goals. The former Chelsea striker may start against his former club.
A massive task indeed for Diego Costa and the Inter manager Stephen Davis. And this, of course, is the head-to-head from their last 5 meetings, John. And it looks like it's a pretty great reading for Wolverhampton, being unbeaten in their last 3 matchup.
Yeah, maybe surprisingly there. I mean, it's 4 games unbeaten for Wolves. Obviously, draws in the last 3. That victory you saw there just before that. And I think that probably tells you about the quality that Wolves have had. It tells you that they've had solid players. It tells you that they've been coached, particularly under Nuno Espirito Santo, in a very sort of conservative way that makes them hard to beat, or made them hard to beat. But it also showed you that they had a bit of a cutting edge in Raul Jimenez in particular, who could be a thorn in Chelsea's side. All of those things have gone away. They've become a team that can be beaten, and they've also become a team, as you've already said, that struggles to score goals. So that's the big difference, I think, between them then and now. If we take a little look, obviously, at what's been happening in terms of Chelsea's form, well, they're a team that has undergone changes, most notably with that of Potter coming in. But I think we're beginning to see good signs, and their best performance, Addy, you'd probably argue, of the season came in midweek against Milan.
Yeah, midweek against Milan, where they revert back to a 3-4-3. That's, of course, Thomas Tuchel's formation, and this is Wolverhampton's result in their last 5 games of the season. Scoring goals is a problem for them, defending as well. A lot of possession they have, John, in every single game that they play in the Premier League, but still a very, very poor return in terms of scoring goals, with only 3 this season.
Yeah, I mean, that has been absolutely desperate for them, hasn't it? And that's the biggest problem. And, you might argue that it comes down to Bruno Lage's failings, but I think it comes down to personnel, because, quite frankly, once we saw Diego Costa arrive on the pitch against West Ham the other day, everything changed. They had a focal point, they had somebody who put the runs in, who put himself about physically, and suddenly looked as if he was going to make things happen. And then if you take a little look at what Chelsea have been doing in an attacking sense, you might argue that if you defend well against them, you might be able to keep them out. Raheem Sterling has been the most likely to score goals. And Raheem Sterling, of course, is somebody who likes playing this team, going back to his City days. Over the last 5 games, there were 4 goals and a couple of assists in that time. So they are opposition that he likes to play against. But Chelsea, I think, is still a work in progress, with Aubameyang, who may have scored in his last 2 games in 2 competitions. But I think the word is that he's on the bench today.
Yeah, Chelsea, a work in progress, and Aubameyang is starting to score in Europe, and he has to score frequently in the Premier League to help Chelsea. And of course, we have the rivals from both sides. Home team Chelsea, who are again looking for their 3rd win in all competitions, and this will be the first home game for Graham Potter and Aubameyang, who is there but is not likely to start the game, and Kepa, who has notch a place ahead of Mendy, and this is visiting Wolverhampton with Joao Moutinho and Adama Traore, who is going to be starting from the bench, and Diego Costa, who is returning back to Stamford Bridge.
Perlu gue bunuh sekarang.
Emang gue gak denger tadi omongan lo sama teman-teman lo. Open BO. Sama orang 1 juta, mainnya 1 jam, boleh sepuasnya. Ini kan 1 jam, terus kayaknya supaya yang ini lebih berkarakter. Welcome to online dating. Itu perempuan jenis kayak gitu tuh banyak yang mau. Lah kalau laki-laki kayak kamu gini jenis siapa yang mau? Kamu itu cuma sejarah ya?
Maaf, sekedar mengingatkan. Bukannya tunangannya batal ya?
Tis, 1, 2, 3, tes, tis.
Apaan sih?
Kalian semua keluarga emang gila.
Janji sama abang, Cal. Jaga bapak.
Wah, enak di dalam sini. Ngapain nyuruh? Lu ngapa, Bang?
Gua nggak pernah nyangka gua dan Ica jadi dua saudara yang misteri.
Kalian sudah keluarga ke tempat.
Gua yang bakalan bunuh lu, anak sama istri lu.
Woi, jangan pergi, Bang. Gua udah keluar dari sini.
Sights and sounds from Stamford Bridge, a sunny day. The players are warming up, and we are going to show you the team news shortly. And there will be a lot of surprises for Chelsea fans. Be ready, because Graham Potter is ringing the changes. As for managerless Wolverhampton Wanderers, a lot of players have to improve and show their worth in this matchup against Chelsea. Welcome back as we are about to see the action between Chelsea and Wolverhampton Wanderers. And John, surprisingly, from the team news, Chelsea are making a lot of changes, and this is rather unexpected. The likes of Aubameyang even is sitting on the bench.
Yeah, that's right, Addy. Let's work our way through this one. I mean, it's actually 7 changes from the team that beat Crystal Palace last week. And there were players, of course, who kept their place in the side and then starred in that victory against Milan. But if we take a look at that Chelsea lineup here, 7 league changes in terms of the side that won last time out. I think the significant news is we showed you strikers just now. And of those strikers we showed you, neither Aubameyang or Sterling actually start. Only Havertz of those starts this game here. Conor Gallagher earns a place in the starting lineup after scoring last time out. Cucurella has shaken off the illness that waylaid him last time. Christian Pulisic is back in the side as well. That means Aubameyang's on the bench. Reece James also on the bench. Raheem Sterling too. So a significantly changed side here, named by Graham Potter.
And Costa is back among the 3 changes for Wolverhampton Wanderers. He'll be starting the game up top for the visitors.
Yeah, I think there are big problems for Wolves because Neves is suspended. He's a key player for them as well. He's replaced by Totti. Huang Hee-chang is getting there, but he's still not fit enough to start. And they've got serious problems. Pedro Neto, of course, suffering that ankle injury. Well, we've now discovered it needs surgery, and he's going to miss out the World Cup as well. So this is really, a case of it doesn't just rain, but it pours for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Key players out, and the suspensions, the likes of Collins is out as well, remember. A problem for them.
Changes for Chelsea and a massive problem in terms of selection for Wolverhampton Wanderers with the injuries that they're having at the current moment. And we will be heading towards Stamford Bridge for the pre-match interviews from both managers. For Chelsea, Graham Potter, and the interim manager Stephen Davis will be talking to us shortly, but we still don't have the interview just yet. John, looking at the team for Wolverhampton with Costa starting there, losing the likes of Pedro Neto in terms of creativity, but they still have Matheus Nunes and João Moutinho who can create from that midfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried because with Costa, even in a disappointing performance against West Ham, a team that wasn't particularly firing that well, still managed to create chances. And I think what it is it's the direct running and the purpose that he has. He will, of course, always be a threat from set pieces, from crosses coming in because of his physical nature. And his battle with Koulibaly, as I said earlier on, is going to be fascinating because Koulibaly has shown himself to be rash at times, and he will get under his skin. He will wind him up, and that could be interesting. The other thing that he does as well, Costa, so well, well, is he's going to continue making early runs in behind. So you have to hope that Steve Davis has recognised that he now does have an attacking threat, and he looks to get more out of his midfielders. I've been disappointed a little bit. I know there are one or two new faces and names in that Wolves midfield, but perhaps the likes of Moutinho need to be a bit more positive. What we have seen from Wolves is we've seen a lot of possession, but we haven't seen a lot of meaningful, probing, purposeful play in the attacking third of the pitch.
Let us now take a listen to Stephen Davis, but first, of course, Graham Potter, Chelsea.
Well, you don't really know what they're going to do, certainly in comparison to if there's a manager there been for a long time. But it's something we can control. As I said in the press conference, we can't do anything about that. We have to focus on ourselves.
And Diego Costa leading their line. No doubt he'll be highly motivated today. So how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, well, he's a player who we respect a lot, of course. He's had a fantastic time here. So he's one of a number of players that we have to watch and we have to play well.
Obviously a surprise to get the call, but you know, me and James have enjoyed the challenge this week. It's been, you know, we've had to pick the mood up and look at what we need to improve, try and get some personalities, and that's what we're going to need today, I think.
Speaking of personalities, Diego Costa leading that line. What are you hoping that he can bring from the get-go today?
Just a focal point. We've not really had that with Raul injured, so I think, you know, it's important that we utilise him to his strengths. He's not been here long. We've been trying to get him fit. That's important as well. We need to monitor that. But, you know, he's a great character and he's been brilliant in the changing rooms. He's lifted spirits when things have been tough. So hopefully I guess he can bring that on the pitch today.
With those other calls that you've made in this side?
John, it would not be very easy for Davis and Collins to set up this team in such a short time to try and get a result at Chelsea. But of course, they have to do it with the personnel that they have right now.
Yeah, I think the first thing they can do is they can just make themselves hard to beat. As I said earlier on, I don't think a draw would be a terrible result for them at all. In fact, it would be a very good result. And they also have to bear in mind that Chelsea is still, as you've said a couple of times, a work in progress. As a result, they probably would say we can set ourselves up here in a way that suits us to get what we want out of this one. Also, they might look to exploit the goalkeeper situation. I think the interesting thing about Chelsea is that there is this thing about Kepa and Mendy. And I think, quite honestly, Adi, I don't know how you feel about this one. Mendy became first choice because Kepa, through maybe disciplinary reasons and the fact that he tended to be picked for the second team, as it were, was cast in that role, despite being a record signing. Mendy's form when he joined was so fantastic that he merited being number one. But quite frankly, his form that led to his dropping, followed by Kepa's form since he got elevated, would suggest that Kepa is going to be number one right now, yeah?
We're going to take a look at that Wolverhampton very, very poor attacking stats this season. Of course, again, with just 3 goals scored. It's 20th in the Premier League, and across the board there, John, problems all over for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, what's interesting, remember I mentioned this earlier on, look at the last stat down the bottom of that graphic there, and you'll see that they've had plenty of the ball. It's not as if they haven't had the ball. It's not as if teams are dominating them and they just can't find a way through. The fact of the matter is that the average possession, they rank 7th in the league. That's not bad at all. It's just that they're doing nothing with it. And the attacking metrics see them 20th, 19th, 18th.
And here is Bruno Lage's stats with Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Premier League. And of course, after a poor end to last season and a very, very disappointing start to this season, Bruno Lage has been basically, he's unlucky with injuries. And is it right for management to straight away sack him in this so early stage of the season?
I think you have to. If you look at what the man who made that sacking, Jeff Shear, the man in charge at Wolves, said, he said that they had no alternative to make that decision. They've done it, and now they have to see where they go from here.
And we are about to go and set ourselves for kickoff in the Chelsea against Wolverhampton match. And of course, we'll be back shortly after this.
Takut nggak bisa? Atau nggak bisa takut? Lagi dari beda Extra Joss. Gol! Semangat Ice, semangat olahraga. Ice, es krim kelas dunia yang nikmatnya bikin semangat. Ice, official ice cream FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022.
Salah kamu adalah lahir ke dunia.
Agnes, cukup.
Gak akan pernah aku dapetin itu. Gila-gilanya dia. Gimana Mbak? Halo, nama saya Navara Juliet. Umur saya 24 tahun.
Produser gue udah mau mempertimbangin kamu sih kalau kamu mau jadi antagonis ini.
Indonesia!
Acting kamu sukses, Jul. Dan memang itulah resikonya memainkan peran antagonis kayak papa dulu.
Nanya lagi? Lah, pakai nanya?
Kak, sorry banget lagi, sorry. Sekali lagi gue tahu lo tuh lebih fake daripada gue. Seberapa pentingnya gue gak ngambil peran antagonis itu lagi. Ini tuh udah ngeganggu hidup gue dan hidup bokap gue dari dulu. Tidak apa berperan jahat, asal tidak lupa berbuat baik.
Karena kamu dan aku pasti baik.
Untuk judul kali ini, yang akan berperan menjadi sendu, tokoh utama kita adalah kamu, Ijo.
Saya dengar Mbak Jul mendapat peran utama di sinetronnya ya. Saya dan negara ikut bangga.
Mbak Ijo, gimana sih rasanya jadi pemeran utama? Nggak boleh nanya.
Hari ini kakek dari suami gue meninggal. Saat tragedi terjadi, keluarga pasti saling support. Tapi nggak tahu deh gimana keluarga ini.
Kita bahas pasti ya. Entar dulu.
Gak usah ngomongin jatah-jatah warisannya Opa.
Kamu ini apa-apa? Ada tukang gorengan begini.
Bapaknya kan ninggalin gue, bre.
Ada apaan sih?
Kalian semua keluarga emang gila.
It's a lovely afternoon at Stamford Bridge, London, for this encounter between Chelsea and Wolverhampton Wanderers. John, looking at the teams starting for Chelsea, the amount of changes, how do you see this game planning out for Graham Potter in his home debut?
Graham Potter will be delighted that he's got Cucurella back in the side, a player who, of course, was so pivotal to all the good things that he did at Brighton. He's shaken off illness and he's in 7 changes from the team that beat Crystal Palace last time out. Conor Gallagher, of course, deserved his place. A huge goal for Potter, that one. Picking out that victory was so important to him, and it was late and it was high quality. And it's interesting that he's got Havertz, and I think this is an ongoing problem really for Chelsea, whoever manages them right now. He's decided that it's time for Sterling and Aubameyang to take a little bit of a rest on the bench, but up front, that's where there are still question marks about how they score their goals. Mount and Pulisic, of course, they'll be turning to today to try and make something happen. Wolves come into this one, and I think you can list the team changes here, Addy, but, you know, Steve Davis is picking from a depleted squad, and that makes his job hard today.
Without the likes of Ruben Neves and, of course, missing Pedro Neto, this will be a very, very difficult match for Wolverhampton to get something out of it. Johnny will start in that defense from the flanks. Matheus Nunes and Joao Moutinho in the middle of the park. Massive duty for them to stop Chelsea distributing and playing from the second line. And Adama Traore is starting for the first time this season. A lot of changes, interesting changes, and of course the homecoming of Diego Costa. We will join the commentators in Stamford Bridge for this game, and hope you enjoy this lively encounter where Diego Costa will try and surprise Chelsea in this very, very intriguing match.
Able to fill their bench.
Both teams line up in the 4-2-3-1 formation. Chelsea's can change, and knowing Graham Potter, possibly will during the 90 minutes.
All the focus on Diego Costa today. The focal point at last for Wolverhampton Wanderers. James Collins, on the left-hand side of your picture, as Nathan Collins is suspended for Wolves, and Steve Davis, boyhood Wolves fan, former Burnley centre-half, who was beaten at Wembley Stadium in the Sherpa Van Trophy final against Steve Bull in 1988. already at Stamford Bridge. The focus on Diego Costa, but there are so many match winners, particularly in this Chelsea lineup. Can Wolves manage to do what they failed to do so many times this season, and that's score a goal as the players take the knee to protest against racism and all forms of discrimination. Our referee today is Simon Hooper, and we're underway at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Home side Chelsea in blue getting right into the groove under new manager Graham Potter. And the Wolves have been let off the leash without a manager, but a very positive starting lineup, and they are looking to express themselves. Rob Green.
Yes, it's an interesting afternoon that Wolves, and you see in their formation 4-2-3-1, will allow Diego Costa to be the lone man, Pedence in behind, and Adama Traore will be the ones that they have to sacrifice themselves physically to get up front in support. Chelsea is almost a hybrid 4-2-3-1. Three at the back, Cucurella being the third centre-half on the left-hand side, Azpilicueta playing as the wing-back at the moment. This will change throughout the 90 minutes as Graham Potter finds ways of opening up doors and unlocking the problems for Wolves.
Tenacity from Gallagher, Havertz, Loftus-Cheek, defending by the interim captain Moutinho, as Wolves look to clear their lines but are struggling to do so. Chalobah. A real din at Stamford Bridge as the seats have only just filled up in the last few minutes before kick-off with a train strike in London today, affecting people's journeys to the game. But they've managed to find a way at last. And it's all set up perfectly. If plan A doesn't work with these players on the pitch, then what a bench Graham Potter has to choose from. Such as the talent in this squad, they're all vying for a starting place, and these players looking to take their opportunities. Here's Mount, here's Gallagher, not too far away from the opening goal.
Scored a wonderful goal in the last minute last week against Crystal Palace, and this was well worked by Chelsea. Conor Gallagher initially, and then Mason Mount. You can see the spaces in and around the penalty area. Wolves have got to get tighter earlier. After his touch, realised he wasn't going to get the purchase of the power, leaning back. He just wanted to feel it in that far corner. Lively start by Chelsea. Wolves not getting tight. It could be a dangerous afternoon.
And it was a very positive starting lineup from Steve Davis and James Collins. They have been, frankly, very dull to watch in recent times, as any onlooker will tell you that they've been very neat and tidy in possession, but very one-paced, and as soon as they get to the final third, very much the shackles were on, and it was almost as if they weren't encouraged perhaps by the manager to burst into the box. There wasn't movement up front, and it wasn't just about not having a focal point, Rob, it was also about players not busting a gut to get into the box, and you wonder whether that has to have come from the manager.
Yeah, it's about intent, isn't it? And it's about willingness to make those yards up and get into the penalty area, commit bodies into the box. There is a risk in that, and that wasn't Bruno Lage's way. But when you do play in such a staid way, in such a static way, it doesn't buy you time as a manager. You've got to get results, and they didn't, and he paid the price.
He had a couple of good half seasons as a manager at Benfica before getting the opportunity at Wolves. And he came as an attacking manager after a pretty dull last year under Nuno Espirito Santo, but that positivity didn't really transpire to the pitch, and it's something that they're looking to try to change now with the positive players they have available. And that was a tenacious challenge by Gallagher, punished by a free kick.
A little bit of an experience there, just willingness to win the ball, looking for the foul and winning it, and this is an area for Wolves they can capitalise on.
Gonzalo Guedes standing over the ball. They have bodies in the box. It's Guedes. Well, it was positive from Pedence, the shortest man on the pitch. Here's their top goal scorer with 2.
It is a clever play. Looking at Chelsea in that shape, you're looking at, yes, it is, but it's the smallest player, but he's up against Cucurella, who's not much bigger. And when you are in a zonal area, just go and stand where there isn't a player. You'll get a free header.
Koulibaly, looking for us Piliqueta, who's struggling to see in the bright sunlight. It really is a gorgeous, glorious